What's up, comic book fans? This is Pete from Comic Books Transformed, and I am with my good friend, Mr. Brian Corsair. Brian, how you doing over in New York right now?
Doing good, except allergies are murder.
Oh, okay, that sucks. I'm
That's time of
sorry.
the year, man. It's just. I feel like garbage the last few days.
Oh, well, it's not really affecting your voice. You don't sound very nasally.
I definitely do. I got hit real bad over the weekend. I've stayed inside mostly the last couple of days as much as I
Oh,
possibly could. So maybe I'm kind of getting over it finally.
you're on the mend. Okay, well that's good. I was working with a student today, and they just randomly said to me, "You have the most perfect voice," and I was like, "Okay." I actually don't think I have a very perfect voice. I think I have a very nasally sounding voice, even when I'm not sick. So.
I've been told in the past that I have a good radio voice, and I always wait for the joke about having a radio face.
Yes, yes. Well, luckily our YouTube watchers can see our handsome faces, and our podcast listeners can listen to our sexy, maybe nasally voices. But today we are talking about one thing. We are just talking about The Mandalorian season 3, episode 8, the finale. And so, just for you guys that are new to Comic Books Transformed, Brian and I like to talk about adaptations of comic books into streaming shows or movies, and we also will talk about Star Wars because Star Wars is often adapting to comics. For this episode, it was chapter 24 of the Mandalorian story, and it's called The Return. And Brian, right off the bat, I wanted to know, what is the main reason why you watched this specific show?
Oh man, I think I was initially curious about a Star Wars TV show. This is the first Star Wars TV show, like live action TV show.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been tons of animated stuff, and it was a curiosity. And honestly, it was a cool looking character. I mean, everybody likes Boba Fett. He was the cool looking guy who did absolutely nothing in the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
What and it just kind of became a habit, and for a while it was event television. I think that maybe that status slipped this season.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were unhappy with. I mean, not every episode, but some of the beginning ones, and definitely some of the ones in the middle, and then and also, I mean, now it has to contend with Andor.
Yeah.
Which was a whole different beast, and I think kind of wowed a lot of people, including us.
Yes.
So it's kind of it's interesting to watch this season in the shadow of Andor, believe it or not, which I never thought would be something I would say.
Yes. And that is a very Star Wars sounding title right there, The Shadow of Andor, right?
Yeah.
That could easily be a Star Wars comic or book. But yeah, I agree. Like watching Andor and then watching this, it's definitely two different experiences. Every time we do this review, I always reference Eckhart's Ladder, which is a YouTube channel that's focused on Star Wars and Star Wars Explained. And consistently this whole season, they have said that the story choices have been kind of confusing, or the main point they were trying to make is that for this third season, there was a lot of buildup of different plot points, and then they seem to be sort of like quickly and easily resolved. Do you kind of feel that way too?
Yeah. They do seem quickly and easily resolved. I mean, there's a couple things that were built up, sort of, but I don't know. And I think this show is kind of feeling the effects, an X-Men like effect of just continually reusing the same villain.
Okay.
I like when villains change a little bit. Magneto is awesome, Moff Gideon is awesome, but he doesn't need to be the villain every single time.
Yeah. Hey,
I don't necessarily think that. I mean, I guess I guess there was something interesting enough added here that made him escaping capture worthwhile. But I do hope that they go in a different direction moving forward. In the next season or two, or whatever it's going to be. I mean, we keep hearing that this whole TV universe time period is going to wrap up in a movie.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to be. I imagine we'll get at least another season or two out of this show, if not more.
So there hasn't been an official announcement that there's season 4?
I mean, if there hasn't been, I'd be very shocked if there wasn't.
Okay.
Like I don't think like I would almost guarantee it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, because the way it ends, it certainly feels like this could have been the end of the whole show. I know that it's like, well, they want to make as much money of like having Din and Grogu, and they'll just keep making shows until, there's less interest. But I know that the interest in the show has gone down too, like you said before. Just to kind of go along with that idea that the show set up things and that, they didn't necessarily have big payoffs. I wanted to just kind of like sum up where we started this episode and where we kind of ended, right? So this episode begins from the previous episode's cliffhanger. Din is cut off from the rest of the Mandalorians, and he is taken in by Moff Gideon's forces, right? And you're saying already, like, well, here we are again with Moff Gideon. It's third time around. He's going to be the main villain of the finale. And so you and I had done some of that fantasy booking that we keep talking about, where we were kind of predicting why they were separating Din from the rest of the Mandalorians. And I don't really feel like that's explained in this episode, right?
No, this was a plot convenience to get him separated and to set him apart on his own from the other force. But that's it. It's it. It was a plot convenience, and that's it.
Okay, well, with that being said, wait, what was that one more time?
Which to me is disappointing. Honestly,
yeah. I mean, the episode starts out, he's, by himself with these two guards that are walking into Gideon's, like, I don't know, interrogation room. And he starts fighting them right away. I'm like, okay, that was easily resolved. And then the Praetorian guard come in, and you think it's actually going to be this sort of, deadly scene, and maybe even Din might get killed. But then Grogu shows up randomly. And I'm like, how did Grogu get over there?
Yeah, so the string of inconsistencies goes a little deeper for me. So first, the last episode, the door comes down.
Right.
It's Din, it's Paz Vizsla, and there's like one or other two just random dudes.
Right.
They get killed instantly.
Red shirts.
And then I don't understand. Oh no, I'm sorry. Paz is not on the one side initially. He comes afterward. He comes back afterwards and gets killed afterwards. I'm sorry about that. So I'm wrong there. So it's Din and a couple random guys.
Yeah.
And they get killed instantly. And for whatever reason, he decides to capture him. Why didn't he kill him? They gave us no reason why they didn't kill him.
Right.
He's the main character of the show.
Right. Exactly. So
that's poor plotting. Poor plotting. I don't want to say writing. Poor plotting.
Right. And so, the Star Wars channels that I listen to, they talk about the behind the scenes stuff and their speculation as to like how that might have affected the story. And I know that there's one thing, I don't think we've talked about it on our show, but there's the idea that Pedro Pascal, he was originally just going to be credited as a voice actor for The Mandalorian. And so in the first season, he ends up showing his face. And so that way he can get a credit besides being a voice actor, just being a regular actor. And then he shows his face in the second season too. So I thought in this season, his helmet was going to get taken off when they brought him to that interrogation room. I thought that was going to be a much longer sequence and that Grogu was like truly going to save him with like some kind of true effort, That
could have worked.
Yeah. And instead he just shows up randomly, on the other side of that door. And he's taking on these guards. When they fight the Praetorian Guard, it's this weird kind of scenario because they should kind of come off as badasses. Because I think they're essentially Force users that aren't like really Sith or anything else. And they have these cool weapons and this cool armor, but they get defeated by Din and Grogu, And I don't like stuff like that because it kind of lessens their, like how much of a threat the Empire is overall or the First Order is going to be overall.
Yeah, at the same time too, the troopers with the Beskar armor, I mean, they're still fairly easily dispatched.
Oh yeah.
There's definitely a threat problem. And again, to compare this to Andor, like I feel like they made simple things really threatening. They made stormtroopers scared. They made a single TIE fighter terrifying.
Right.
But, this goes back to the like they're supposed to be an upgrade to, but are they really? No.
Yeah. Really good point. I mean, in Andor, like you said, the TIE fighter is scary, but then also they don't fight stormtroopers right away in Andor. They have like corporate security guys that they fight, and even those guys are intimidating because you're just dealing with like human characters that don't have crazy armor and don't have the Force. And so in this, you have someone that has crazy armor and someone with the Force. But with Grogu, I know that like everyone loves Grogu, but when he's fighting with the Praetorian Guards, right? That's what they're called?
Yep.
Yeah. When he's fighting with them, they go alone in this room by themselves, or it's the 3 guards and Grogu, and that looks kind of scary. It's like, oh shit, he's with them, but I know he's not going to get killed. And then he's just like jumping on top of lights and stuff, and they're trying to swat him down. It's just too much for me, you know?
It's too comical. I honestly, oh god, this is almost going to be blasphemy. I was honestly thinking they were going to kill Grogu on 2 separate occasions this episode.
Yeah.
And on one of them, I was almost on both of them, I was almost hoping they would.
Whoa! Yeah, it'd be way more dramatic, and it would just fucking fandom would go crazy.
I kept hearing. I don't know. Finish.
But at least like something would happen. That's my whole problem. I mean, here I'm kind of doing the money shot right here, but basically for this episode, it's like nothing really happens. The bad guys lose. There's not really even a major loss. Like the major loss the good guys suffered was in the previous episode. Like nothing happens.
Yeah, this is essentially like a toy box episode. You know, it's just like armies fighting essentially. And I don't think it's necessarily bad. I mean, it did look really cool, honestly. Yeah. And I did sort of like the little speech that Din gives to Grogu. I guess we should call him Jaren because Din is his last name.
Yes.
I'm going to keep calling him Din because it's easier.
Yeah.
There was that little sleeves like, we have to end this, you know, like he's going to keep coming back unless we end it. And I did think that was going to mean something more, I think. But yeah, I think the show might be serviced better if Grogu wasn't in it anymore, maybe.
Right.
It completely belittled the Praetorian Guard. They made them look like, you know, chumps because they couldn't swat a little creature. I mean, yes, he had the Force, blah blah blah, but still, it absolutely takes away from their threat level. And I think it's just they're writing themselves into a corner with having to, you know, just deal with a tiny unspeaking character constantly.
Yeah, right. And it's not like a cartoon. Like if it was a cartoon, it would kind of work. But since it's live action, it looks really silly. One of my favorite tweets, I didn't get to share with you because you guys should know, I kind of bombarded Brian with a bunch of tweets today. Like anything I got excited about, I was like, here, look at this. And one of the last ones, one of my favorite ones, was someone had a still from when Grogu was jumping on the lights. And he was like just kind of like this in the air. And they were like, man, with live action Grogu, it's just kind of like they throw the puppet up in the air and they turn the cameras on. It just is like so funny. It's like that's exactly what it looks like. He's just like flying in the air like this, like a little gremlin that they just chucked up in the air, right? And so, yeah, but there's more plot holes, and I kind of want to discuss a few of them. You know, everyone is fan casting. That's why we do this kind of stuff. This fantasy booking, right? Is that we're all sitting here thinking, okay, well, what's going to happen? We know what happened in Return of the Jedi. We know what happened in Revenge of the Sith. So we're all thinking about, like, what's the big arc? What's this emotional payoff going to be? And they give us clues. Like, last episode was called The Spies. And so you assume that there is some spy among the Mandalorians, because really there aren't any spies besides that one girl that worked for Moff Gideon, you know? Yeah. And so this episode, you're sitting there, you're like, okay, now the armorer, she's going to betray them now. Or, Axe Woves, he's going to betray them. Look, he's flying up there and he's talking to them. He's going to, like, go up there and he's going to lie to everyone on the ship and they're going to betray everyone on the ground. But that doesn't happen.
Can I also call out that Axe Woves flew to space? Like he literally flew to space with his jetpack.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird, right? A couple episodes ago, they were like running out of fuel when they went like
chasing a pterodactyl, and now he can fly to space.
Yeah. It's kind of like in I think it's Revenge of the Fallen, or no, maybe it's what's the Dark of the Moon? Yeah. It's just like Optimus can just fly to space now.
Oh no! No, that was 4. Yeah, he just takes off. Oh no, it's both, I guess. He doesn't fly to the moon in the third one, but the fourth one he like just flies out to deep space totally by himself. He's super prime.
Man, when are we gonna get a trailer for Rise of the Beast? Like another trailer?
27.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, for real.
Okay, that's good. Something to look forward to. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, he goes up there, and there's this great looking sequence where the TIE fighters go up and they start shooting the Mandalorian fleet. And he's doing that sort of heroic last stand where he's like, okay, everyone leave. I'm going to take care of the ship. And then he doesn't even die.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful when they're attacking the Mandalorian fleet. But then Eckhart's Ladder had this great point of where did all those Imperial fighters go after the Mandalorian ship crashed?
Yeah.
Right?
Where did all the troopers go? I mean, like, there's no way that was all of them, you know?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm kind of giving a lot of criticisms, but are there things that you liked about this episode?
I mean, it's funny because I went in like I was coming into this semi-satisfied by the finale, and now that we're talking about it, I guess I wasn't. I guess I wanted more.
Yes.
I was half expecting either Grogu or someone to die.
Okay.
Dan or Din. I was expecting somebody to die, somebody to be a betrayer, something.
Yes.
But it was just like some really, admittedly, really cool looking action scenes.
Absolutely.
And and then a kind of non-committal death of Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I wanted something a little more with a little more twist or drama or something like that. Yes, it's cool that the Mandalorians retook Mandalore. That's awesome. That they're rebuilding their society.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing, I guess, is the Darksaber's destroyed. Like I don't know.
And there were fans that were upset with that too, because the Darksaber was such a big plot point for this show, and I think it was also a big plot point for like Rebels too, and I think even the Clone Wars show. So to have like this special Mandalorian artifact just get destroyed by Moff Gideon,
I think they could rebuild it potentially as a subplot. I don't think this will be the last we've seen of the characters on Mandalore. Although I'm curious as to how involved they'll be, because it seems like they're setting it up to be more one-off adventures for next season.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because we were like maybe 3 or 4 episodes in, and there was this controversy where I think Dave Filoni had said that the Mandalorian title didn't necessarily just apply to Din Djarin. And so people were like, oh, shit, he's not going to be a main character on the show, or Katie Sackhoff's going to be the main actor. But
I heard both that would show up, because of the name.
Oh, yeah, right. And so, people are speculating, but now it seems that it's going to be like Din sort of having these Western adventures like in the first season, but he's like serving the New Republic.
Yeah, which is eventually going to tie in with Thrawn. We heard Thrawn in the 7th episode. Like I said, I didn't think it would make sense for him to appear in any capacity here.
Yeah.
But they just said he exists, and ultimately, to me, that sets up Ahsoka and whatever movie is gonna wrap this up, because it's got to be Thrawn related at this point.
Yeah, and it's funny because there isn't this kind of scene where what's the name of the fucking spy girl that lives on the Coruscant?
Elia or Elia Kane.
Elia Kane, right. So Elia Kane, there isn't like a sequence where she gets news, like a post-credit scene where she gets news that Moff Gideon has died and she's all defeated, but then she gets news that, like, oh, well, Grand Admiral Thrawn has returned, so now you're going to go work for him. Like, there isn't even a scene like that in this episode.
Yeah, actually, that might have fit, to be honest.
Right?
But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did cast the voice actor, Lars Mikkelsen, to play Thrawn, correct?
Yeah, and that kind of blows my mind because I know that actor from like House of Cards on Netflix, and I actually really like him. He's been in a few other things too. I didn't know he's Mads Mikkelsen's brother.
I did know that, but I haven't seen House of Cards, so I don't think I've seen him in anything.
Yeah, sometimes he's like a bit player and things. I know he's played like a Russian before in House of Cards, the show that was on Netflix that was with Kevin Spacey. He was like the equivalent of like Putin. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, right? Because his brother is in Rogue One, and then he's in this, right?
Sure.
One's an Imperial, one's working against the Empire. But anyway, what I was going to say was that I did have a few things that I did like, even though I felt very underwhelmed. Sorry, Robin from Teen Titans. I wasn't just whelmed; I was underwhelmed, right? Or Young Justice. But one thing I actually really liked, and I said this in the notes, was when the Mandalorians are coming back to take on the troopers, and the troopers are going up with their jetpacks, so they're like flying together. And essentially, it was like a medieval battle with knights, but instead of horses, they had jetpacks. And I just thought that looked really cool.
Did look really cool, and there was some really cool platform slides. Honestly, like I was like, "Oh shit, that was awesome!"
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the fighting and the action was good. It was really good. It's what I wanted to see. It's what you want to see out of these characters.
Yeah,
they are like a threat in this universe, and maybe you can argue that helps counteract the ineffectiveness of the enemies. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought the platform slides because Din did like 4 of them at least, man.
No, there was one. There was some random one or some random Mando that slid on like this platform, slid off of a platform, and then fired the jetpack and then like shot 3 guys. It was awesome.
Oh, I want to go back and watch that now. The other thing that I liked was that we at least know why Moff Gideon wanted Grogu in the first place now. Is that he wanted to take his ability to tap into the Force.
Yes. Yes, he wanted to incorporate Force into his own clones. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I mean, I can buy that you can figure out how to do that because the whole metachlorians. It's genetic, whatever. Assuming if you don't like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're making clones of yourself, but you can't enhance yourself, so you're making better versions of yourself. Like, it's like right now in X-Men, Mr. Sinister made a bunch of clones of himself, and they kind of like revolted in a way.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. Where's the logic and the benefit there of cloning yourself?
It's just ego, right? It's just like overflowing with ego.
I guess.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like, just to kind of address what you said about the Force, because, I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan, and I've read a lot of this shit. And whether it's canon or non-canon, I think they both go off the idea of midichlorians, even though no one likes to admit it. That, still, because it came from George Lucas, they gave it some authenticity. I think the idea with the Force is that any single living being can use the Force. It's just that midichlorians are these like symbiotic creatures that sort of enhance your connection to the Force, or like make it easier for you to connect to the Force. And so when a character has a high midichlorian count like Yoda or Anakin has like the highest of anyone, right? Then they can like easily access the Force, whereas everyone else would be like a big struggle. And so I think that.
How do you get them then? Do you like eat like a bad truck stop sandwich and you just get them midichlorians?
Yeah. Oh, I got some crabs. I can use the Force.
Use the Force.
Oh, hey, that's the upside, right? I have crabs. No, I don't know why. The idea is that the Force itself is a metaphorical thing, and that it has a will of its own, right? And so I think that even people having high midichlorian counts is sort of like the will of the Force making something happen. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and there's also the religious undertones as well. And
right. Our friend John Edwards, who's watching, if he ever wants to come and tell us a little bit about midichlorians and the Force, we could use a little lesson too. But you, my friend, reminded me that there was an Obi-Wan show, and I completely fucking forgot about that when I did my Star Wars show ranking.
And I wish I could.
Awesome. So whenever a Star Wars show or a Marvel show or a Marvel movie comes out or a DC movie comes out, Brian and I do rankings at the very end when it's over. And so did you have anything else you want to say about this episode? Or
no, I guess not. I honestly didn't hate it. I know I've sounded very critical of this episode. I guess I expected a little more. I expected some kind of twist or something.
Yes.
Something more exciting. I got a little. I guess I got a little teary-eyed when they officially inducted Grogu as a trainee or apprentice.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't know, the whole dad thing always gets me. So that was cool, and yeah, I guess I was just I want something more.
Yeah, honestly, that's pretty much the exact same thing I felt. And it's interesting too because even the mythosaur, they show it right under the water, but
Yeah, that
then
better come back and do something next season. Like
right,
seriously. I
yeah,
mean, to me, that's the clue that they will be back in some capacity because there's no way they can just show that thing and then that be the end of it.
right. And
Like,
wherever Grand Admiral Thrawn is, it's going to be far away, and it's not like they're going to fucking like airlift that thing to him, you know.
yeah.
So, all right, well then let's do our rankings. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I can go. I'll go first. So we are ranking the shows we've reviewed on this channel, and we're also going to include. We're also going to include the Mandalorian seasons individually, even though we did not review seasons 1 and 2 on this show. Maybe someday we'll go back and do it. Who knows?
Yeah,
We have a whole bunch of free time right now, so we don't know what we're covering next week exactly. So
yeah.
maybe that. Let us know.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's good. That
So at the bottom, I have Obi-Wan. Like I said, I wish I could forget it. I really wish that show would have been better. I love the character. I love Ewan McGregor. I didn't think that show. It had its moments, but overall, it was unsatisfactory.
Okay.
Next, Boba Fett.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say about Boba Fett. There was 2 episodes of The Mandalorian in the middle of it. Like it seemed like filler for the most part. Like some interesting things happened, but not that much. I don't know.
Okay.
Next, I have Tales of the Jedi. This is the only animated series we've done. Maybe we should do Star Wars Visions at some point.
I agree. Absolutely.
Season 2 coming out soon, I think.
Yeah.
That it was good. I may rank it higher if I had seen some more of the Clone Wars stuff because I have not.
Sure.
After that, I have Mando season 3. So this is the lowest ranked season for me. I don't need to say any more about this really. Then I have the first season of The Mandalorian, which was a great entry point. I think it set up a lot of the things here. It set up what it was exciting. It was the first live action Star Wars show. It was something that people have wanted and they've been talking about for like decades.
Yeah.
Next, I have Mandalorian season 2.
Okay.
I honestly had a hard time picking between this, but ultimately, what put it over the top was Luke Skywalker showing up.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that was just incredible. Like,
Yes.
it's just overwhelmingly incredible thing to see.
Yes.
And then at the top, I have Andor, which is no surprise with how I started talking about this episode.
Right.
Sort of our show.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Our lists are fairly similar. There's a little bit of a difference. So for my bottom, I actually would put the Book of Boba Fett, just because. Okay, 2 reasons. The next one after that is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi has one moment that I think is maybe better than everything else on this list except for the Luke Skywalker cameo and Andor, which is when Obi-Wan is talking to Darth Vader. And even that is problematic because I kind of don't like that they have encountered each other before A New Hope because of this show. However, if it was just my like little dream that I had or a fantasy of the 2 of them talking, I really love when Anakin's helmet is broken and you see his eye and he says that one line of, you didn't kill Anakin, I did. I just love that so much. So that's why Obi-Wan is higher than Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett, the stuff with the Tusken Raiders, that was really great, and I was really excited about the show, and then it just sort of lost its footing. The Mandalorian
kind of a little bit, but I honestly enjoyed the 2 Mandalorian episodes in the middle.
Right. I agree. It was like very jarring, jarring.
Yeah.
To have them randomly stuck in there. But I like that, even though it kind of contradicts this season finale of Mandalorian season 2 too. So so then that is my 7 and 6, right? It's Book of Boba Fett, then Obi-Wan Kenobi. Then for 5, I have this Mando season, which I think we're kind of like these 3 are the bottom 3. Then for 4, I have Mandalorian season 1. Pretty much in agreement with what you just said. For number 3, I have Tales of the Jedi because I actually really like that. And there's that one episode with Darth Plagueis in it that I love that episode so much. For number 2, I had The Mandalorian season 2. A lot of that is because of Luke's cameo at the end, but just even seeing Ahsoka is really great.
Oh yeah! Oh my God, Ahsoka too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 2, and then obviously Andor, which is like in a league all itself, like way above the rest of all of these. You know.
This is probably the most similar list we've had.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about these Star Wars shows that like. I don't know. I think that sometimes when it comes to Marvel stuff, you give things more of a pass than I do. But I think with the Star Wars stuff, we're sort of both at the same level of criticism.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, and just like a little couple of tidbits too. We could just tack this on at the end here. 2 announcements that were made this week, and there might even be more than this, but the 2 that you and I discussed, they're making a Moon Knight comic that's going to feature the Scarlet Scarab, who was a character that was like just introduced for the show.
Yes, Layla Al-Fiyui. I hope I said that properly.
Yeah.
Who is inspired by existing characters in a way, but yes, they are bringing her to the comics, which is kind of cool, and maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, I don't know because I think the writer's name is David Propose. I think his name. He did like Savage Avengers. I'm probably getting his last name wrong, but he's really good at like retweeting people's positive responses to things, and so like my whole thread was just like, yes, this character. Oh, she's finally getting her own book. Yeah, and like when I watched the show, I didn't think that people were that into her, but apparently,
I honestly, it's a representation thing. There are not many Middle Eastern characters. God, I saw this thread recently. Maybe you even sent it to me. I don't know. It was about how why the average like white fan gets so angry about race swapping and gender swapping and all this is because they're so used to seeing every single character be like a white dude, and they're seeing themselves represented, and all these other people like this stuff, but it's just nice to see them represented. So that's why you see so much more forced diversity and inclusion, which I don't think is a bad thing.
yes.
So I think there probably are a decent subset of fans where it's like I am this. I do not see myself anywhere here, and this is something that's me that I can relate to, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, really well put. And guys, if you're listening to the podcast versus watching YouTube, when Brian said forced, he did air quotes.
Oh my God, yes. I'm for diversity and inclusion, please.
Yeah, no. I think they know. If they're fans of our show, they know that we're pretty progressive compared to other comic book fans. But so there's that one announcement, and the other announcement was Adam Driver is potentially going to be in the Fantastic Four movie. It's not like confirmed that he's going to be in it, but besides that, they're not saying he's definitely Reed or that he's Doom, right?
I think they were leaning towards it was saying he was supposed to be cast for Reed.
Okay. Okay.
I wish there was someone at Marvel that was like James Gunn and would just be like, "No, you're wrong. You're an idiot."
Right.
I wish there was. I wish Kevin Feige would do that.
Yes.
Because these rumors have been going on forever, and he has been rumored in the past. If this is true, I mean, I'll absolutely give it the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not sure that that's the right actor for Reed or Doom, like you said. I think maybe Doom more, but I don't know. It depends on what kind of a Reed you're going for. Like you said, Reed, I think one of the cornerstones of Reed is him being aloof.
Right.
I do not see Adam Driver doing that. Adam Driver was very intense.
Yeah.
And he can be kind of wacky and stuff and things, but he's almost always intense. Like that's yeah. And I think Reed can be intense. I would almost say that the Jonathan Hickman version of Reed was a bit more intense.
Yeah.
And when you get to things like the Council of Reeds, it's a bit more intense. But I'm curious to see how they adapt the Fantastic Four in general. Anyway, I guess I initially liked the Tim Story that directed those two, the original movies.
Yeah, the original ones. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not the original one from the '90s, but the late '90s, early 2000s ones.
Yeah, Chris Evans and
I liked those at the time. I have not rewatched them. I don't know how well they stood up. I definitely had some problems with the casting and the effects
Yeah.
and overall story.
Yeah.
But I never saw Fan Four Stick.
Oh,
But
you're lucky, man.
I'm curious to see how they adapt it. I feel like family is oddly a hard thing to adapt in a superhero.
Huh.
Well, I don't know, or their brand of family. I feel like people would see that as cheesy or corny or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't see it like that. I love the Fantastic Four. There's one of the I tend to when I'm buying Marvel comics, I tend to stick with Spider-Man and X-Men related things. But I always wanted to my toe back into Fantastic Four.
Yes.
And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm really tempted to buy the most recent series. It's only like 6 issues in lately,
Yes.
but I haven't yet. So I am a fan of it, but I do see how it could be difficult to adapt for people that want things like the Avengers were in their prime, sort of, or in game like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. You mentioned how family is such an integral part of Fantastic Four. A lot of times people will say, "Oh, there is one really good Fantastic Four movie. It's The Incredibles," right? They'll say that is the Fantastic Four movie. But I 1,000% agree with you that family is like you have to have that family element for Fantastic Four. However, I think that one element that shouldn't get neglected, and it pretty much did get neglected in every other adaptation of the Fantastic Four, is just like the sort of crazy cosmic adventure. The Tim Story ones that you referenced, there's like no cosmic adventure. Yeah, you get Galactus and Silver Surfer, but they come to Earth and they're about as generic as you could make Galactus and Silver Surfer, right? And then with Four Stick, they at least go to the Forbidden Zone in the movie, and there's some weird stuff with Doctor Doom, but it's once again very generic. And I think that you need really weird, kind of out there, like almost like Star Trek retro-y kind of feeling, like that Star Trek show Strange New Worlds, like something that kind of looks or feels like that, but live action with the family dynamic, almost like kind of like Lost in Space kind of nails it, where it's like a family, but there's like kind of crazy adventuring. Like if you got like a Lost in Space vibe for this, I think that would work. So as far as Adam, I mean, because then essentially Adam Driver would have to be the love interest, for Sue Storm, and then he'd also have to be the father potentially of, Nathan and Latveria, right? That's their fucking names.
No, it's
Val,
Franklin, and Valeria.
Oh, yeah, what the hell? Latveria's fucking Doom's country. Yeah. So I don't really see Adam Driver in that role. What was the name of the guy from that show, that they were thinking of casting?
And Badgley.
Yeah, I mean, he at least looks more like Reed, I think.
And I've also heard Dev Patel thrown around in rumors before as well, which I honestly think is my favorite.
Dev Patel. Which one is he?
Slumdog Millionaire. Green Knight.
Oh, my God. That'd be so much better. Oh, I love that.
I kind of really like that one a lot.
Yes. I'm all for, like, just race swapping Reed, and you could totally do something else with him. I think that Michael B. Jordan actually was good as Johnny Storm, and if he was in a good Fantastic Four movie, that would have been it, right? But unfortunately, he's Killmonger in the MCU, so it wouldn't work. But yeah, that's pretty much the big news for today, guys. Let us know what you would want us to cover next. We got some good suggestions. I know John Edwards said maybe like do some classic kind of comic book movies like The Punisher and stuff. Maybe we could do Blade or something. That'd be kind of fun. But if you guys have suggestions, me and Brian are open for them because there's nothing coming out for a while, right?
I mean, the next thing for us is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. So I honestly think that since we both love Guardians 2 so much, and that's kind of a divisive film.
Yes.
I think that should be our next week review, honestly.
There you go. Okay, well, we got next week covered. Going to be Guardians Volume 2. And we might do like Captain Marvel and stuff down the road because, the Marvels is coming out too, so.
And Secret Invasion, which is going to connect to that, obviously.
Scrolls. Good point. Yeah, so it's been fun as always. And if you guys have not subscribed, please do. And we will see you guys next week.